Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our special redistricting meeting Tuesday, October 26th. This is a district meeting that is being held by myself and my colleague, Supervisor Federal Glover. Our districts are right next to each other, so we thought this would be a good idea to do this. There's several redistricting meetings happening throughout this week, and later on, all of that schedule will be put out, and you don't have to necessarily attend a meeting that's your supervisor's meeting. You can go to any and all of them, and I encourage you to do so. Redistricting is a part of a long process. It's required every 10 years. The counting from the census began 2 years ago, and those numbers help us make the decisions we need to make sure that the districts are represented better. And so we have had to have a more escalated schedule because we got our numbers later than we would have normally, and because of that, we are trying to get everything done within the required time. I really appreciate people giving their time and considering what we're doing and giving us feedback, because we want to do what's right, what's fair, what's logical. And so we really appreciate your input. I'm going to introduce Supervisor Glover, and then after Supervisor Glover makes his comments, I'll introduce Mr. Twa. Go ahead, Mr. Supervisor Glover.
So good evening, Chair Burgess. I want to welcome you all here tonight. I think we have a lot of good, exciting things for you to look at. There's several maps that will be shown in terms of what the district's possibilities are, and it will give you the tools necessary to go in and to maybe even do your own map. But I do want to welcome you here. This is my third redistricting since I've been on the board. Actually, one was done just prior to me coming in, and I was here 10 years ago. So again, take advantage of the opportunity to voice your opinions and even draw your maps, because that's what this is, an all transparent, inclusive process. So thank you so much for being here and participating tonight.
Thank you, Supervisor Glover. So before he retired, our county administrator, Mr. David Twa, and I were speaking, and I asked him how he felt about helping us with our redistricting process, even if he was retiring, and he agreed to do so. And I think that's why things are going so smoothly, and I really appreciate Mr. Twa taking on this role. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Twa, and welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Vice Chair Glover. It's a beautiful evening to have this, and we hope many people will participate. As the supervisors have indicated, this is a tradition thing that we have to do by law every 10 years. And typically, the redistricting starts with the release of the official census data. And in normal redistricting times, that data would have been released around the first day of April of 2021. For a lot of different reasons, not the least of which was issues going on in Washington and the COVID, we did not receive the redistricting data until September 20th of this year. It actually came out a little earlier, it came out in late August, but in California, we have to use what's called the California Official Redistricting Database. That is responsible for it. Those numbers were not released until September 20th. What California does is they take individuals who are incarcerated at the state level institutions and said that those individuals should actually be counted from the jurisdiction they lived in prior to becoming incarcerated. And so those numbers get reallocated across the state. Contra Costa County does not traditionally send a lot of people to prison, as a result of which the actual numbers that were allocated back to Contra Costa County were a little over 2,000. But nevertheless, by law, we are required to wait until we receive that information before we could start the county's official redistricting process. This is what our current supervisorial map looks like. This was passed in 2011 during, of course, the last redistricting period. Each map that we produce has a number of data points on it. It shows the population of each district, and it also shows how that population in each district deviates from the mean. The mean is the average. In other words, based on the 2020 census data, if we had exact population spread between each of the 5 supervisory districts, each district would have a little over 233,000 people in it. Contra Costa County grew by almost 119,000 people over the last 10 years. But as you could well expect, that population growth was not evenly spread across the 5 districts. And as a result of which, we take a look at how that number varies from the mean. What the law says is that, recognizing that it's virtually impossible to have exacting population in each district, that you're allowed to have a deviation of 10%, either 5% above the mean or 5% below the mean. So if you look at this map in Contra Costa County, essentially we have District 2, which based again on the 2020 census, is about 4.35% above the mean. And then we have District 1, which is 3.56% below the mean. The way this works is you take whichever figure is highest above the mean and whichever figure is highest below the mean and combine those two together. And the goal is by law, they have to be less than 10%. So after the allocation of the prisoners to Contra Costa County, as you can see, the deviation currently in the county is 7.91%, which is within the legal amount allowed. One of the things that we've been trying to do is to make sure that we have a robust opportunity for the public to participate in this process. So we've done a lot of things. One of the things that we have is we have a dedicated redistricting website. So if you go to the county's website, on the front page of our website, you can actually click on it and go directly to the redistricting website as well. Otherwise, if you wanted to go to the redistricting website directly, it's Cocoa Redistricting, I should say, .org. So it's relatively easy to find. And we certainly invite everybody to go there. We'll be talking a little bit later about how you can actually go to our redistricting website and either draw your own map if you want, either for communities of interest or for supervisory districts, or you can simply comment on other maps that are on there. One of the things you also can do is you can simply agree to subscribe, just put in your name, your email address, and as we develop additional data on the redistricting, we push that out to everybody who is a subscriber. As you can see from these figures, we've had, at the time these numbers were prepared, we had about 4,800 website reviews. We're now over 5,500. We've pushed a lot of the information out to our Twitter and Nextdoor posts, and currently that number is over 125,000 people. So we're doing our best to try and get people engaged and to participate in this process, and hopefully we will have a number tonight that will also participate. As the supervisor indicated, we started late because we had to wait for the redistricting material. We did have one meeting before the release of the census data. That was on August 10th. And reason we had that one early was we had started up our redistricting dedicated website on August 1st. So we wanted to have at least the first public hearing so that we could tell people how to use the redistricting website and how to make use of the materials that's on there. We have, as part of our website, what's called District R, and this is the mapping program that you can actually use. It is free and available to the public to draw your own maps, again, either for communities of interest or for the actual district maps if you choose. We had our second public hearing on October 5th, and we had an evening one on October 19th. And that brings us now to this point, which is the district workshops. And as the supervisors have indicated, we're doing a series of 6 workshops. We had one on Saturday, we had one on Sunday. Both of those were during the day. We had one last night at Pleasant Hill, the one tonight that we are currently involved in. Tomorrow night we will have a 5th one, and that will be at the San Pablo City Hall. And on Thursday, we'll have the 6th one. The goal was to have these in the weekends and as well as in the evenings. So at a time other than our regular county board meetings, we felt that it was important that people would have many opportunities to participate in the process. So those people who may not be able to participate in our public meetings during the day, this gives you or them an opportunity either through the evening meetings or through those two. The other thing that's important to note is that California has some mandatory requirements for the redistricting. One of the most important from our standpoint is the fact that by law, the county board must adopt the redistricting map no later than December 15th. Because of that, we have had an expedited hearing process just to meet the requirements. The state requires at least 4 public hearings. As you note from our agenda, we'll actually have 5 plus the 6 workshops that we've talked about. One was before the maps were drawn, and that was the one we had in August. And again, one had to be Saturday, Sunday, or an evening meeting. In our meeting last Tuesday, October 19th, was at 6:15 and met those requirements. California also has a ranking priority system, and this is specific. In other words, as you look at drawing redistricting maps, number one is, to the extent practical, districts have to be geographically contiguous. And of course, so we have made sure that we do meet that standard. The second one, however, tends to be the one that people look at the most and actually consider, and that is that we have to respect the geographic integrity of a community of interest. And the third one after that is, to the extent practicable, the geographical integrity of a city or a designated census place should be respected. So as we've worked through the redistricting process, most people have been focusing, as have we, on the communities of interest, because again, that is shown as the second highest ranking one after the geographic contiguousness requirement. So what is a community of interest? It is specifically described in the statute. It's a population that shares common social or economic interests, so that they should be included in a single supervisory district for the purposes of effective and fair representation. The statute also says that a community of interest can be almost anything, but it has to be identifiable by a specific geographic area. So here's some examples of what community of interest can be: urban or rural interest, housing patterns, community centers, cultural or religious or language characteristics, school districts or school attendance areas is a common one that people tend to look at, as well as city boundaries, and then policy issues, concerns about crime or education or perhaps economic or employment patterns. All of those can be communities of interest. We have a much more exhaustive listing of communities of interest on our dedicated redistricting website. So when you go to that, as you look to the possibility of drawing your own community of interest, it gives you many more examples of what potentially could be considered as communities of interest. In addition to the public hearings that we've held and these workshops that we're doing, we also held 3 community online workshops, one in September and 2 in October. And of the 2 in October, one of those was in Spanish. These were technical workshops that were intended to help the public learn how the online mapping application system works and how they could submit suggestions for communities of interest or suggestions for supervisory district maps. And for each of those workshops, they were recorded, and they are also available on our dedicated redistricting website, so that people could go to there and watch the videos, which are relatively short. They're about less than an hour, and it would help you learn how you could draft it. But one of the things we wanted to do tonight was to actually talk to you about the process to draw your own community of interest or supervisory district maps if you so desire. We are fortunate in Contra Costa County in our Department of Conservation and Development. We have excellent staff that runs the GIS mapping programs, and they are extremely good at drawing up the maps that we've looked at, as well as, of course, providing input to the public as to how to do the drafting. So at this point, I'm going to turn this over to Christine Solstein from the Department of Conservation and Development will walk you through how you can draw a map if you so choose. After she is done, she's going to introduce her colleague, which is Chris, who is going to look at how some concept maps that we have drawn up could be considered by the supervisors as possible maps for the redistricting. I would point out that these are only concept maps. The board has not considered them, other than as the board has had the public hearings, as we've had the workshops, had input from the public, we have tried to draw up some maps that we believe reflected the goals and objectives that have been discussed, not just by supervisors, but also by the public. So with that, I will turn it over to Christine.
Thank you so much, David, and thank you all who are spending your Tuesday evening here online learning about redistricting. So this is our website, and you can get here by going to cocoredistricting.com. The website will be here, and it'll be here for 10 years. A couple key highlights I'm going to quickly go through. On the top, we have all of our menu items, and if you hover over, it's both in Spanish and Chinese to ensure that everyone has access to the information and ability to provide input. We always have our upcoming events front and center. Right now, we're at this meeting, and some maps for your consideration. Kind of a repeat of all the menu items, and then we scroll down and we find public input opportunities, the calendar, and the next events, in particular our redistricting workshops. And down at the bottom, there's different ways to contact us in fax, in English, Spanish, Chinese. And these are on the bottom of most pages. You can hit almost any one of these items and get to a link to be able to go to the District R website, which is really what we're going to spend our time looking at. This is one such link, Draw and Submit Your Map. And if I click it, I've already preloaded it here. It goes to the Contra Costa County Redistricting Public Portal. Scroll all the way up. This is a site that has been developed by District R, which is hosted by Tufts University in one of their math labs. And it was created specifically so the public has an easy way to provide input to the redistricting process throughout the country. There's an overview of different types of testimony and how to draw a map. We also have some tutorials on our website. And then the District R tutorials are right here. If you would click either the map communities of interest or map supervisorial districts, they'll take you to the District R website on how to do that, and we'll do that shortly. As you scroll down, there's the ability to submit a comment, especially if you want to just do a written comment. You would provide the title, the information that we would need to know and what's important to you in your community. You can do tags, and these tags can be used for a variety of purposes. One example that I like is if you work for a community organization or you're working with a group, you can use something like League of Women Voters, and then any map that or a comment that the league submits or league member submits, you can easily search for that. And then there's some key information that we need about you, in particular your first name or identifier, and an email address. And that email address is really important because District R makes sure that you do have a valid email address before they publish your comments, just to avoid spamming on their website. I just realized this is a 612 number here. That's in Minnesota. And there's a couple key disclaimers that you need to submit, that you understand that this is a publicly posted submission, and while it's publicly posted, we do not ever publish your email address or your phone number, and that if we have any questions, we can contact you. And finally, is a submission gallery, and this is where everybody's comments are available. We actually have 2 pages right now of different comments that we've received from members of the public, and these 5 right here are our draft concepts, which I will show you more about that later. So I'm going to quickly go up to map communities of interest, and if I would click this, it would take you to this map. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't have to wait for it to load. This looks like a Google map, and the tools right up in this corner are how you would learn, how you'd be able to draw the map and navigate around. The hand allows you to move the map around. You can also search for a community. I'm going to do Bay Point here, and it'll circle in on Bay Point. A community of interest can be an area that you think we need to take into consideration as we're drawing the map. So the paint brush right here is your tool. You can, the slider tells you how big an area. This will get a lot of Bay Point. And if I make it smaller, I can start to do some more detailed drawing. Oops, I went too far. I can use the eraser and erase some of this area that I don't really want to be included. There are some data layers that we've provided. You can put these on at any point that might be able to help you. Census designated places, which are unincorporated communities that the census has acknowledged. Put those on. Municipalities or cities. Zoom out a little bit. And you can also add the current districts. And then there's some demographic information that you might find helpful. Let's say I want to know where the Hispanic population is, because that's key for my districts. And I see that this area is darker in color, which means it has a higher percentage of Hispanic population. And then there's also an evaluation of how your community looks compared to the county as a whole. And you can also look at that for the voting age population as well. So once I take a look at my community, I can give it a name. I'm just going to do Bay Point. And this, of course, is not exactly what Bay Point looks like, but Bay Point is a community of interest. I can add an important place. I think the BART station is right about there on the wrong side of the road. And then I can call it the BART station and submit that as well if that's part of the community of interest. Once I'm ready to save, I can save this, and the map has now been saved. And there are two options once your map is saved. The first option is to simply save your plan or to share it. And this, maybe you're not quite ready to be done. Maybe you have to go make dinner or something like that. You can copy this to your clipboard and then paste it either in an email or a Word document or somewhere where you want to be able to come back to it and continue to work on your map, or maybe send it to a friend and they can help you out. If this is all ready and complete, ready to submit to the county, you will proceed to submit map, which takes you right back to the submission form. You can see the map is right here and it's populated with that same URL. You just complete the title, answer some questions about why this is a important community, tags if you'd like, and then go ahead and submit. And once you authorize your email, it will show up in the submission gallery. So that's communities of interest. If you're interested in creating a district plan, it would take you to this map, which is very similar, except when you start to hit the brush, now there's 5 different colors. So these go in order. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is District 1, and I can start making my map. And I'm not going to worry too much, but a couple things that I'd like to highlight. This center line tells you about where the mean is. So I'm over. So again, I'm going to just use that and get it to about right. And then I can continue to add colors. I just went over this line. I didn't mean to do that. What I could have done is locked already drawn communities, and then it won't paint over, nor will it paint beyond the county boundary. So you can just continue to paint your district until you feel like you have a really good, kind of going over here, plan. And we've just made Federal's district very small, but that was not intentional. You can highlight unassigned units, which I'll show you this way. If it hasn't been assigned, it will show up in red, and then I can go through and add another color. Now this clearly is not a very good plan. It has lots of different colors in it, but again, I can check and see how it works with municipalities, and I can look at voting age population by race, or voting age population by race, and then save it and either copy to clipboard. In this case, it looks like I have some work to do, or else I can proceed to submit the map. The final thing that I would like to share is, go back. If there's already a map that has been created, you can take a look at that map. This happens to be the county's draft concept 1. And let's say you look at this map and you think, wow, this is really great. I think this is the right map. You can proceed, or you have a problem with it. You can proceed to submit a comment and tell us what you think about this particular map. You can also use this as a template to create a new map. So you can open it up in District R and then maybe decide that you want to change a little bit of, I'm going to say that District 1 maybe should go a little bit further north. And then I can submit that as my own map, and I can say why I think it's important that this area is also included in District 1. I think that's one of the more exciting features of this particular program. And once again, if you just go to cocoredistricting.com, you can get to all of that information. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and turn it over to Chris, who will walk you through the 5 concepts.
Thank you, Christine. Good evening, Chair Burgess, Vice Chair Glover. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. All right. So this is the current supervisorial districts, and I'm just going to take a moment to kind of give a quick overview of the formatting here. This page is kind of the overview map and data page, which has lots of charts and tables that give you a bird's eye view at a lot of the different aspects of the numbers. As some folks have already kind of mentioned, you look here at your variance from the mean, how far away from the equal population you are, and any district's allowed to be 5% over or 5% under that number. And you can see here the high district is District 2 at 4.35, and the low district is District 1 at negative 3.56. Add those two numbers together, and you get 7.91, which is the variance of this plan. And we'll use that terminology a lot. Another thing you'll see on here are the total population and the citizen voting age population broken down by race and ethnicity. And if you have been paying lots of attention to these charts the last few workshops or the last public meeting, you may have noticed that these numbers have changed slightly. What we're reflecting as of today is an update from the California Statewide Data Center on their adjustments to the census data that they did in September. They've put out a revised version that raised the total population of the county by 5 people. But it did move a few more numbers around in terms of the breakdown of citizen voting age population. It wasn't really enough to change any of the percentages very much, if at all, but it did happen. Let's go into the concept maps for this year. So this is the first concept map. Each map I'm going to go around the county in a counterclockwise fashion and kind of go through the big changes from the current districts. And you can see here the current districts are in light yellow. And some places they're a little bit easier to see than others. I apologize for that. It's hard to get everything on these maps. So first we'll start in Pinole out here in West County. Currently Pinole is split between District 1 and District 5. This concept map brings Pinole entirely into District 1. As we circle around a little bit, you'll see here the community of Release Valley, which is tucked in between Martinez, Pleasant Hill, Walnut Creek, and Lafayette. It's a community that's got 3 different spheres of influence to 3 different cities and 3 different school districts that split it up in different ways. So it's a little bit of a challenge to decide where that belongs. In this map scenario, we have split Release Valley by school district. So the Martinez School District goes with Martinez in District 5. The Mount Diablo School District goes with Pleasant Hill and Walnut Creek in District 4. And the Lafayette School District goes with Lafayette in District 2. In Walnut Creek here, the entire city limits of Walnut Creek will be in District 4. Including some of the unincorporated areas of Walnut Creek, including Acalanes Ridge, Castle Hill, and about half of Saranap. Now, Saranap is another unincorporated community that is split. It's got Lafayette Sphere of Influence and Lafayette Elementary Schools over here, and it's got Walnut Creek Sphere of Influence and Walnut Creek Elementary Schools on the other side. So in this scenario, we split Saranap by the city SOI. And then La Miranda in San Ramon Valley are District 2, and here you'll see that Diablo, the unincorporated communities of Diablo, Blackhawk, and Camino Tasahara, as well as the rural area of Tasahara Valley, are currently in District 3, but they are certainly we're getting feedback that they're considered a community of interest with Danville and San Ramon. And so in this map scenario, we have put them all into District 2. If you look in some of the rural areas between the cities on this map, you'll notice a lot of the lines have changed here. We're proposing moving all these lines. The reason we're doing that usually is because when the census puts out their numbers, they put it out in census blocks, in what we call census geography, and we have to follow those blocks. And sometimes the blocks that we used 10 years ago don't exist anymore. So that's the case here in the Mount Diablo State Park area. The lines we used last time are no longer there. So we're using slightly different lines that make the most sense. But this is not a very populated area. There's very few people up on Mount Diablo itself. This neighborhood here is the rural area of Morgan Territory. It's kind of past Mount Diablo. It's on Morgan Territory Road, but also Marsh Creek Road here. And that stays in District 3 with the rest of East County until you circle around to Antioch. Antioch is also currently split by the supervisorial districts. A couple years back, this little area here was annexed into the city of Pittsburgh. We refer to it as Tuscany Meadows. In this scenario and all the scenarios, in fact, we'll bring this into District 5 with the rest of Pittsburgh. But we do continue in this map scenario to split the city of Antioch. And in this case, we're going to split the city by the railroad, the Union Pacific Railroad, until it hits the city limits here with Oakley. And then circling around the northern waterfront to the Concord area, the previous or current supervisorial districts follow the city limits of Concord here. This map concept follows Willow Pass Road, Concord Ave over to the 680 and up to the city limits, putting portions of North Concord into District 5. Like the other map here, we've got all the charts and numbers here. This map scenario has District 4 with a large variance of 4.9 and District 3 with the low of negative 2.55 for a total of 7.45% variance. Our second map concept, I'm going to start again in Pinole. You'll notice the theme here, I'm sure. A lot of these things stay the same. Pinole is going to go to District 1. Release Valley is going to be split by the school district. In Walnut Creek, this map concept is going to do something different. Instead of following the city limits in some unincorporated areas here, it's going to follow the freeway. It's going to follow Highway 24 and the Interstate 680 around here. And so the incorporated part of Walnut Creek on the south side of those freeways will be in District 2, as well as the entirety of the communities of Saranac and Castle Hill. The community of Acalanes Ridge and the rest of western Walnut Creek will move from District 2 to District 4. Over here in the San Ramon Valley, again, we're putting the communities of Diablo, Blackhawk, and Camino Tasajara, as well as the Tasajara Valley into District 2. This time up behind Mount Diablo, you'll see this area here is the Morgan Territory Road area, and this is bound by the Mount Diablo School District. So we're using the school district lines to separate this part of Morgan Territory Road and take it away from District 3 and put it into District 4, as this area has certainly identifies with the city of Clayton. As we go into Antioch, you'll notice there's a different split here. It's still split, and it follows several different streets, as you can follow along in the narrative here, as it notches its way up to the 160 bridge. There's a little tiny area here of unincorporated county that would move into District 3. As you move around to Concord, this also follows Willow Pass Road, and then you'll notice a little notch here. This is a neighborhood on the north side of Willow Pass Road. Behind that neighborhood is the former Concord Naval Weapons Station, and so this neighborhood will stay in District 4, and then it'll follow Willow Pass Road till it gets to East Street, Grant Street, and Solano Way, which kind of make up a thoroughfare that goes by the hospital and up here to to the city limits, and that area will go to District 5. Again, this scenario has a high variance of 4.82 in District 2 and a low of negative 2.84% in District 5 for a total variance of 7.66%. As we move on to District 3, Pinole again goes to District 1. Release Valley is going to go by school district. Walnut Creek is going to be split by Highway 24, Interstate 680. The San Ramon Valley is going to go into District 2. Morgan Territory Road area is going to go into District 4. Antioch will still be split. Again, Tuscany Meadows will go with Pittsburgh into District 5, and then just a few streets difference here, right at this area on the Railroad, A Street, and Alpha Way. And then as we go into Concord, again, it follows Willow Pass Road, avoids that little neighborhood, and then it goes up Olivero Road until that hits Highway 242. And then it's going to go down 242 just before downtown, and then go up this line here, follows an old railroad right-of-way. It's got if you look on an aerial photo, it's got a bunch of public storage, so you can kind of see the line there, and it's a good break between the airport here, which is in District 4, and this neighborhood in Concord. This map has a high variance of 4.82% in District 2 and a low of negative 4% in District 3 for a total variance of 8.82%. Moving on to map 4. Again, we're going to put Pinole in District 1, Release Valley in split by school districts, Walnut Creek split by the freeway of 24 and 680, the San Ramon Valley into District 2. And this map, Morgan Territory Road area stays in District 3, and the Mount Diablo area is split by census geography. In Antioch, quite a different split here. It's more of an east-west than a north-south, or maybe a quadrant. It follows Highway 4 and then Cavallo Road and Fulton Shipyard Road up to the county line. As we circle around to Concord, this map does not follow Willow Pass Road. It follows Highway 4. And so you'll see here, there's less of the former Concord Naval Weapons Station. There's still some Naval Weapons Station in District 5, but much less. And keep in mind, it goes all the way down here. So it's a pretty big area. This one goes down Port Chicago Highway. It crosses downtown on Bonifacio Street and then up that railroad right-of-way to the county, to the city limit. This map 4 has a high variance of 4.81% in District 2 and a low of negative 4.11% in District 5 for a total variance of 8.92%. And finally, our 5th concept map puts Pinole in District 1, splits Release Valley by school district, splits Walnut Creek at the freeway, San Ramon Valley to District 2, Morgan Territory Road stays in District 3. Antioch is split by Summersville Road and the railroad. So this is the biggest split. This is the most amount of Antioch that goes into District 5 in this map scenario. And then in Concord, this is the smallest amount of Concord that goes into District 5, where it follows Highway 4, and then it goes down Highway 242 and up the railroad right-of-way. And this one's got a high variance of 4.81% in District 2 and a low of negative 4.87% in District 5 for a total variation of 9.68%. And those are our concept maps.
Thank you, Chris. David, did you want to add anything?
Madam Chair, nothing at this point.
All right. So I personally love maps and data, and I'm always curious to learn more. So I just really appreciate all of our staff digging in and, trying to answer everybody's questions. So as you can tell from this presentation, there's a lot of different opportunities to make comments, to contribute your ideas. So one of them is to make a public comment during these meetings, but they are limited to 3 minutes. And truly, I encourage you to get in on these, on the District R site and do your version of mapping. I love the fact that the software allows you to adopt a map as kind of the template, and then you can tweak it if you want. So it gives you a lot of freedom. You don't have to start at the very beginning. You don't have to take on the big task. And I think Christine even kind of pointed out that you don't have to do the whole map. If you just want to make a certain part of the county and do a statement, you're allowed to do that. Federal, before I open it up to public comments, did you want to say anything?
No, I'm waiting to listen to our public.
All right, thanks, Federal. So we have Jamie in the board chambers, and I'm going to let her and Paz, who is our interpreter tonight. Hi, Paz. We're going to open this up to public comment. So Jamie, please take it away.
If there are any callers on the line or any Zoom participants who would like to speak under public comment for 3 minutes, please press pound if you're on the phone or raise your hand in the Zoom app.
Si hay alguna persona que quiera hacer comentarios sobre lo que han escuchado de la redistrictación, por favor levanten la mano si están en Zoom o opriman el numeral si es que están en línea telefónica. Gracias.
And we have Chris from AT&T in the boardroom with us, and he's going to moderate the calls and the Zoom participants.
Thanks, Chris.
At this time, I don't see any Zoom participants nor phone callers.
Okay, well, then I'm going to have to do something about it. The last meeting I had, nobody wanted to raise their hand. And see, I can see who's here in our public participants in Zoom. And I see you guys, and I know you guys know how to speak up. So I'm going to encourage Willie or Sean or Sarah or Pat or Nancy or Madeline or Catherine or Cheryl to please raise your hand and share your comments. Even if you think it's going to be critical, we want to hear from you. We appreciate you giving your time. You could be watching the baseball game. You could be at a city council meeting. You could be doing something else. So, it is your turn to make a comment if you have something, and we welcome you to do so. So if you don't know how to raise your hand, Jamie, can you let people know how to raise their hand?
So to raise your hand on Zoom, it's at the bottom of your screen. Just click on the raise hand icon.
And the last time I did that call out, somebody did raise, a couple people raised their hands, but I guess you guys aren't gonna raise. Oh, there we go. Sean, you came through for me the last time. So welcome, Sean. You know how to accept the invitation to be a panelist. And then once you're on, you'll unmute yourself. And if you want to share your video, you're more than welcome to. Welcome, Sean.
Hi, good evening, everyone. It's nice to see you. I'm learning still, and because I've a little bit more familiar now with looking at the maps when Chris is explaining things. So now I have questions about the map, and I'm curious to know, I know these are drafts, but when I look at Antioch, which is where I live, and I think about the map, and I can't remember which one it was. I think it was number 3, but I'm not sure. The squiggliness of the division. And it just seems like the last map, map 5, was a lot cleaner. And I also am trying to understand the divisions that leave Highway 4 and divide Concord in sort of a strange way where it has this pie shape, and then it goes to Bonifacio. And my husband worked for the company that did a lot of the toxic waste studies for the Naval Weapons Depot, and I know that Concord community is very much engaged in the development of that since the Navy turned it over to public use, to public ownership. So I'm trying to understand the rationale for the divisions even on these drafts, because I certainly wouldn't ever divide up a community that's worked so hard to try to do something with that land. And I know Antioch is still split, but it just seems like it's cleaner to use Highway 4 as a divider.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts and wonder.
Thank you, Sean. Thanks for stepping up. You know, one of the things that I have wanted to point out, and I asked at our last redistricting meeting on Sunday, is for us to do a map that shows the unincorporated areas as a community of interest. And I want people to kind of understand, and I'm going to even ask Mr. Twag to kind of chime in on this, is that the county provides various services, but in the unincorporated areas, we are the city council, the city manager, the police department, the code enforcement, all of those things that normally are services provided in the city, as well as, you know, a lot of the building permits and all of those things. And so while I understand people are concerned about, you know, city limits and school districts and fire districts, water districts, you know, it's going to come down to this whole population, and that's why a lot of these numbers are being drawn that way. David, do you want to add anything to that as far as, you know, helping people understand those squiggly lines and kind of why cities are divided and that kind of thing?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you point out, when you look at the population of the county, the largest single grouping in terms is the unincorporated area. It's about 177,000 residents of the unincorporated area, compared to, say, for example, the city of Concord, which has 125,000, Richmond, which has 116,000, and Antioch, which has 115,000. But of course, the unincorporated area isn't simply in one particular area. It's spread out throughout all of the supervisory districts. So each and every one of you tend to end up with some unincorporated area. So the goal really has been to look at what is a community of interest. And so as Chris indicated, in a lot of areas, as we look at the numbers, we look at school district lines or school areas, because those seem to be ones where people are very interested in terms of the communities of interest. The other thing that we look at, of course, is the racial and ethnic information. Essentially, each of the maps that as people look at it, they will note that we have race and ethnicity data for the citizens voting age population, as well as for the same data for the total population. And those are requirements under the Federal Voting Rights Act, as well as the State Fair Maps Act. And so as we look at where lines are appropriate, we want to make sure that any actions that we take does not discriminate against any group. And so all of the maps that we have brought forward, we believe are consistent with those goals in terms of looking at communities of interest, as well as making sure that we're not splitting racial voting blocks or discriminating in any manner.
Thank you, Mr. Twa. Chris or Christine, did you want to add anything to that?
Hi, Chair Burgess. Yeah, I would love to add something. A lot of folks have mentioned this at different meetings, like, well, why did you split Antioch that way, or why did you split Concord this way? I think a great thing that those folks could do is hop on to District R and start with the map that's closest, or start with the map that has that split you don't like, and go ahead and try to figure out how to tweak that, how to slightly change it to something that makes sense. I mean, certainly we do our best to try to make neighborhoods whole. Sometimes you end up having to split something just to get the numbers in a place where the plan will meet the variance requirements. But certainly the people on the ground in those neighborhoods know better than us just what part of the neighborhood it goes with which other part. And so we would love to see more of that on District R.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, and I just want to remind people, when you're talking about dividing a city, you have city council members, you have, all of those people working within the city to service you, and a lot of elected officials that are sitting on regional bodies to, advocate for you. So, while we'll try to not divide communities, often there are cities that feel very comfortable having two supervisors represent them. And in the last 5 years that I've been on the board, sharing Antioch with Supervisor Glover, the feedback that I've received from folks within the city was that they were comfortable and happy with the situation. But I do understand the concerns, but I just really want to frame it so that people understand that, as Mr. Twa, explained, we have more people than any one big city living throughout the whole county, and so we have to consider those populations when drawing those lines, and that's why the lines that you're seeing in these draft maps are pretty close to the old mapping, because we are considering the populations of our unincorporated area. And Supervisor Glover, did you want to add anything to that? You're muted.
Thank you. Yeah, just the point that, if we could make every community whole, that'd be ideal, but that's not the case. And so I think where you're looking at the maps today and you have an opportunity to show something that may be interesting to you, then I would just say go into that map 9 and go ahead and make those suggestions.
Thank you. Oh, yay, Cheryl, you raised your hand. So we're going to invite you over to be a panelist. And Christine, I didn't see you speak up, so I'm imagining you didn't have anything to add. And if you did, you can add it after Cheryl. Cheryl knows how to unmute herself. There you are. Good evening, my friend.
Hi there. I just wanted to reiterate something that Mr. Twa said, and I'm hoping that it can be reiterated. I've been to 3 of these now, and I mean we're going through it on the water district too. And I just wanted to reiterate, and hopefully they'll be reiterating it the next couple of days at these, is that when people are toying with this map tool, that they're remembering the message that was just delivered about is not just making the communities that you like, but the whole purpose of the Voting Rights Act is ensuring that communities of color also have that you're not putting all of certain communities in one area, right? And so I think that maybe that disclaimer or some instructions to that effect are put somewhere on that maps on that app, you know what I mean? Because I don't think that instruction is very clear so that people understand that you're not just moving things around the way you like it, but they understand the purpose in that there's a method to the madness of how these maps are developed, that there's a legal premise to why these maps or these communities are grouped, and that communities of interest has a legal premise behind it, and is not just because, oh, it looks good this way, or we like our communities this way, but there's a true legal premise to it.
Thank you, Cheryl. Very good comments. I appreciate that. Let's see. Christine or Chris or David, did you have any comments on that?
Madam Chair, I think I already covered in my conversations about why we're very careful as we look at the race and ethnicity data to make sure that we're not discriminating.
Yeah. And unfortunately, or fortunately, this process allows people to just speak on behalf of their, specific interest. And that is, that is one way of participating, and we will consider it. Doesn't necessarily mean it will be, prioritized if it's not considered in the whole, like we're trying to do. We have another public comment, Willie Mims. Welcome, Mr. Mims. Please accept the invitation to be a panelist. And once you do that, still watching you. Please accept the invitation to be a panelist, Mr. Mims. Sometimes that invitation can be can get buried under another window sometimes. Is there a way of sending a new invitation?
Sure, Burgess, I went ahead and sent another one.
Okay. Beautiful thing about technology is it's allowing us to all meet from different corners of the county, but sometimes it can be really challenging too. And I really appreciate all of our staff. I don't see Mr. Mims.
Looks like Mr. Mims did drop off.
Okay. So I think we have completed public comments. I would like to thank everybody for joining us. I will say that after going through the maps, I think some of the things to remember for District 3 is that Brentwood and Oakley are the top fastest growing cities within Contra Costa County. So we anticipate that to continue. So some of these variances are showing District 3 kind of lower, but I anticipate that there will be growth. And it's not based on projections, it's based on current numbers, but just wanted to point that out. Antioch is the 5th largest, fastest growing city in Contra Costa County. And because we also have a geography of waterways and different boundaries with other counties, etc., this is a special project that is unique to Contra Costa County. I am supporting the communities of Black Hawk, Diablo, and Camino Tasahara to join, is it District 5, is Candace? I think that's what.
No, 2.
Oh, 2, sorry, you're 5. District 2, because, when you live in Black Hawk, Camino Tasahara, or Diablo, you shop, or you have school districts, or you belong to, sports teams or different, business things. So there's been a lot of energy that has gone there. So I'll be supporting that. The other thing is Morgan Territory, which is in District 3, really does feel more connected to Clayton. And so I've been encouraging that community to be within the same supervisorial district as Clayton, so that some of the services and things that can happen in a county, like a fire or a landslide or whatever, it's logical. So those are some of the things. And of course, I have a large part of unincorporated Contra Costa in my area, so I'll need to consider that. So those are the things that I've been working on, and I again appreciate you participating in this. Supervisor Glover, do you want to do your closing statement before we adjourn?
Well, first off, let me just thank the public for participating tonight, because I think it's important that you have your voice as a part of our decision-making process. So I appreciate you being here. And then once again, I would just say take advantage of the mapping that we have, and put your thoughts in there, because we're not at the end of the road right now. We're at the beginning, and certainly we want to be able to take your thoughts into consideration as we go forward. So thank you for being here. And I do see Willie Mims' hand up again.
All right. So would it be appropriate to do one more time, trying to get Mr. Mims on?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, let's try. Mr. Mims, you're going to get an invitation to be a panelist. Please accept that invitation. There'll be a window there, hopefully. Chris, do you see him?
I don't see him on, but I believe he did accept it. It's just taking him a bit longer to rejoin as a panelist.
Okay. Oh, there he is. All right, Willie, please unmute yourself and welcome this evening, Mr. Mims. Please unmute yourself.
Is because my streaming is not working right, and so
well, we can hear you, so go ahead.
So I just said, first of all, this is my first meeting, so I'm glad to see you, glad to see Fred, my supervisor. But I wanted to, so all this stuff is new to me. All the information I just got, I'm trying to internalize it. But my question is, which of those 5 maps closely resemble the maps drawn in 2010?
Why don't you, finish your comment and then we'll answer that.
That was it. That's the question. That's all.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mims. Mr. Twa or Mr. Howard or Ms. Silsing, do you want to answer Mr. Mims' question?
I'll take a shot, unless you want to go, David.
No, go ahead, Chris.
I mean, I will say it's hard to answer that because they're all a little bit different. In fact, they're all pretty similar to each other, except for the first map, maybe the most different. So I maybe 5, maybe 3. It's really kind of apples and oranges. They're all kind of in the same. They do a lot of the same things.
So I would say what's is very similar is map 5 to what was done in 2010.
Yeah, it certainly makes the small changes in Concord and Antioch, and fixes some things from last time that I think we did because of the variance.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, we got all of our public comments on, even as we were closing up. Mr. Twa, did you need to do any housekeeping on our closing?
Madam Chair, no, just to thank everybody for attending. And again, as both supervisors have said, we would love to have them go to our mapping site, and if nothing else, at least make some comments that we could, because everything that people put on that system, or if they email us or call us or text us, all of that becomes part of the permanent record. And we are, by law, we are required to maintain the dedicated redistricting website for 10 years after the redistricting is done. So this is their opportunity to participate not only for now, but to make their voices known for the future.
All righty. With that, good night, Federal.
Good night. Thank you all for joining us.
Good night, everybody. Have a good evening.